Hello and welcome to This Week in Bitcoin, brought to you by Relai Private. There's a lot that happened this week and we'll get stuck in right away. News number one are the confirmation by Saxony, who have released a press release in which they stated that they did in fact sell their Bitcoin, and they used some legal gibberish to verify that if an asset before an investigation closes has the potential to fluctuate more or less than 10%, they are obliged to then sell this asset as well. And in the case of Bitcoin, because it's so volatile and everything, they had to do it basically. So the goal was to get more fiat out of Bitcoin. But at the end of the day, if they would have waited another week, they would have gotten more fiat out for their Bitcoin. So that argument doesn't really hold up if your goal is to maximize the revenue or the wins out of that asset to then give that back to victims or something, which in this case they're now debating about. But what does make sense is that the government is not allowed to hold on to this asset because they were seized and they can't convert them onto their balance sheet. So therefore they had to sell it. In the end, the timing was really bad. It wasn't just a bit bad. It was horrible, actually, because again, if the German Saxony authorities would have just waited for another week, they would have profited more if that is the goal, to get more fiat. But on the other hand, it's good news for us because we are now able to get those coins back into the open market and being able to stack more. In the end, they confirmed that they sold over 49,858 Bitcoin, and that all of these transactions which have been speculated about were in fact the ones they sent. Nevertheless, the chapter is closed now and we can move on. News number two are an interview by Larry Fink in which he stated full on that he was wrong about Bitcoin. Formerly one of the biggest skeptics, he did actually invest a lot of time to learn about Bitcoin and how it works. At least that's what he's saying in the interview, and that he's been caught by surprise how well the ETFs performed. Also this week, they've seen a net inflow again, vastly positive net inflow. And on the other hand, he was then also using this interview to educate people not only about the possibilities with the ETFs, that's where BlackRock makes their money in the end, in these fees. That's why they're selling it as well, because it's not real Bitcoin, it's paper Bitcoin. But also with the technology in itself, the possibilities to send cross-border payments, the abilities in third world countries to really have wealth generation, and all of these things we are familiar with. He said that on national TV, and therefore is slowly starting this whole debate on Wall Street, probably to take a second look or a third look or maybe even a 10th look at Bitcoin, which they have so far dismissed. Whether that actually starts more adoption amongst institutional investors, that remains to be seen. But it's good to have these examples. Although we know that whatever they're selling is not real Bitcoin, it does make life a bit easier if you're trying to convince people from the traditional finance world, when you can say, hey, the biggest name in finance with the biggest company, BlackRock, he's a Bitcoiner. Why are you not? And speaking of Bitcoiners and how Bitcoin changes you, which we see with Larry Fink, we've also had some celebrity and even some high net worth individuals this week that did in fact come out and support Bitcoin now. On the one hand, we had Mark Cuban, famously a crypto investor into NFTs and all of various coins. He really had to learn the hard lesson that that's not the best way to do things because he lost a lot of money there. And years ago, he was basically attacking Bitcoin for how bad it is. Suddenly he comes out and is now pro Bitcoin and saying that it's the only thing we need to invest our time in, and all of these positive arguments. I basically think he's doing this for social clout. He still needs to prove if he also believes this. And then according to Donald Trump, if that's a credible source, we will see. Jamie Dimon is also changing his perspective on Bitcoin and other digital assets. Again, there we kind of have to put our thinking hats on. Trump wants to offer Dimon the Treasury Secretary role. This is something Dimon was chasing. He stated in previous interviews that after finance, he seeks a career in politics. So this would be the best way in. And he's formerly been a Bitcoin skeptic, calling it a pet rock and all of these things. So that he suddenly changes his position just as the announcement comes out that he may or may not be the Treasury Secretary. I think a lot of what's being said there is more of a political move and less of a, let's call it a conviction move that Bitcoin really is different. But hey, whether these people have invested time, are still investing time, or will be investing time in the future to study Bitcoin, I think we can all agree once you do study it and you see all the benefit, it does changes you. We just need to wait if they actually mean it or not. But for now, at least, I think it's safe to say that they have been convinced by someone, or orange pilled by someone, to believe that Bitcoin is different from what they've previously seen. And with that, we're at the end of this week in Bitcoin. You know the drill. If you've got questions, feedback, or just want to say hello, let me know in the comments below. And I wish you a very well day.